and out of guilt he goes and he hangs himself. And that's how Judas dies in Matthew's gospel. That's the same gospel where it has the zombie apocalypse, mass resurrection of saints from the Old Testament coming out of their graves. Now I'm talking about the Book of Acts, not St. Luke's coverage of or mention of Judas. I'm not even sure that there is one. I think he reserves his comments on Judas for the Book of Acts. But beyond the Book of Acts too, there's a third account. This didn't make it into the Bible, but it's one where he puts on so much weight that he can't make it through a chariot's archway while on horseback, and is so overweight that he bursts, and maggots and pus and all sorts of infections that evidently just spooge out of him. But going back to the Book of Acts, you find him writing that Judas takes the 30 silver coins and he spends them on the purchase of a field called the Field of Blood, Akeldama, the Field of Blood. And while ploughing in that field, one day he trips over, falls headlong, and his bowels gush out. So it's questionable how likely it would be to trip over and have one's bowels gush out from a headfirst fall. But it's a harmonious nightmare, which that fucking Aussie Ken Ham has tried to harmonise in his book debunking alleged or supposed Bible contradictions. Ken Ham's stance is that there isn't a single contradiction in the entire Bible, and he is a nutter. He is too chicken shit to have said that here in Australia. In any case, what he says is that, you know, if there's a car crash scene, you would have this is his analogy. You would have if one team turned up to report on it like immediately after it happened, then the facts they would jot down would be different from a team that turned up 10 or 15 minutes later and covered it. So it's the same story but from another perspective. And well, that can't be true if key details contradict. Like, for instance, one of Judas's deaths is an intentional suicide by hanging, and then the other account is a headfirst fall accidentally in a field. So, and this is a field that he purchased with money that he otherwise felt in the other book too guilty to even be in possession of, because it was blood money that he got for a betrayal. So that it's a twofold contradiction, and it can't be true that you're just getting coverage from a different perspective because of what went on. It says that same money from that betrayal was, in one book, was spent on the purchase of a field, and then it said in another book that he had to return that money to the treasury because it was blood money and he felt too guilty to have it. So you can't reconcile those contradictions. And that the type of death is an intentional suicide by hanging in one book, and an accidental headfirst fall in another book. I mean, did he hang himself by his feet? You know, that's just to make a start on reconciliation. There, you'd be asking questions like, could he have hung himself by his feet? Well, it's not a very, wasn't known to have been a very functional way to die, by hanging, to hang yourself by the feet. It's more like Batman meditating in Michael Keaton's Batman in '89. Just wearing pants and then upside down, hanging upside down like a bat. So the account of in St. Matthew contradicts the Book of Acts in relation to Judas completely. Completely. Now that I hope is all, and we can be done. We can be done with all this babble. Ta-ha.
Talking about Roger and his mum. Much more important people.
You talk about questions of why, if there's known homosexuality observed amongst animals, why wouldn't they be driving themselves to extinction? And this is where I've wondered about, like, when a test is designed to observe and study the behavioral patterns of monkeys, and they say, like, study how they go and gather food and resources, how they care for their young, how they mate. If the parameters of the experiment were expanded to see if they can observe or attempt to gather proofs of same-sex and opposite-sex encounters, would they find them? And it's not totally inconceivable that a homosexual animal, I mean, if in the course of a life of a sheep, let's say this sheep has sex 100 times in its entire life. One results in pregnancy with an opposite sex sheep, and the other 99 are with same sex sheep. Do you think that, what does that mean, the sheep, and how do you measure the sheep to be gay? By the statistic that the total number of times that they have had sex divided by same or not same, opposite or not opposite gender for yeah, for the majority of sexual encounters. So that these other animals aren't thinking in terms of respectively they're not getting together and going, well, do you like fish sticks? Yeah, sure, I like fish sticks. Well, then you're a gay fish. Like non-human animals don't really talk or think in those terms. So, just as the apparatus used by scientists to measure phenomena affects the phenomena measured. Like the heat from the microscope I use to study a paramecium, single-celled organism, the heat caused it to explode. So the instrument used for the observation, that apparatus can affect what you're studying. And the order of tasks as stipulated in terms of the methodology and the scope of what needs to be done, and that checklist is also going to affect the results that are gathered, obviously. So, this is the hard thing you come to about the truth, is that you often delve into. So Nietzsche's very calming here, where he says, beware of the teachers of the purpose of existence. I would say beware of monists, beware of unilateralists. If man has invented language, as we have invented tools, we've invented language, and if the dictionary says the word truth is defined as the true or actual facts of a case, then if we're, and that's what it is, the true or actual facts of a case, then you're ultimately deferring to whose case, and it's a who-based inquiry, ultimately. So you'll want to break from it. And now that break from it is not intense proactive lying. That's an either-or scenario that weighs on the conflicted mind of a Freemason who's yet to admit that being a scientist and a Freemason has made the scientific aspect of his mind put pressure and pull on the strings and the supports of the faith-based Freemason mind, as if it were out to destroy it. So you're out posing questions in terms of a true-false dichotomy, going, is this true or false? 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 Sometimes the question, is this true or false, is inappropriate and it's not the relevant question to ask to get the right answers. But a person whose religion is irreconcilable to their critical faculties is a person who is constantly forcing themselves to ignore that they have put themselves in a position where they're wise enough to call a bunch of faith-based baloney and bullshit false. But they're not. They're scientifically minded, failing to call Freemasonry false, and going to churches where they call Freemasonry true. So when they want to do their studies with you, Every single fucking question. Is this true or false? Is this true or false? Is this true or false? And it comes from what's unresolved within their minds. And that's why big pharma charge studies are a danger. They're a danger to society, and especially when they're illegitimately ran by Freemason knob shines. That's knob shine in a refined. I used to work. The term knob shine was something of a high school pejorative, and it's been updated to include religious pharmacists who try to discuss their religion with you, or call themselves Robin Hood or other such types of heroic figures to you while wearing like schoolboy shorts look with socks pulled up, like they're attending a Mars class, yet they're the co-founders of Capital Chemists. And yeah, so knob shine in relation to them has been updated to mean like, you know, you have free access to treat yourself from herpes. You have free access to a whole bunch of shit. So I would encourage you to at least use castor oil when banging a sheep, or you'll you know, you'll be able to, it'll be less painful for you and the sheep. That's castor oil, available at a pharmacy near you, especially discount pharmacy. Yeah, Chemist Warehouse. Castor oil. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's got to be. So now it's 2021, and the issues that I am raising has got to be addressed either way and from a number of fronts. The proposition, the claim that Joe hears voices equates to Joe gets needles and pills of the worst chemicals to fucking exist on the planet, forcefully. You know, these claims need to be entered into church buildings. Then they can go to any of them. They can go to Mahendra House. They can go to Buddhist temples. They can go to the Uniting Church. They can go to the Moron Church. They can go to, but they can go in there and take those people in there, and they can do whatever. Or they need scientific proof of what the voices are to be empirically demonstrable. And the answer, it's a con on how do you, like, are you thinking a lot? Because you obviously listen to your own thinking, and that makes everyone who thinks a person who's hearing voices. So they're just hearing themselves think, or they're accessing memories, or they're dreaming, or they're wondering, they're fantasizing. So, what I wanted to call attention to, from what I know from faggot tall chemist, is that those who are really conflicted. So two types. And one type serves as a decoy. In a sociological sense, one type serves as a decoy compared to the other type, who are the ones who have been hit in a hit. The conflation of both types together is to the advantage of people like Gary Kanza and Roger Toll, because it becomes confusing to investigate the question at large if you've got people honestly admitting to being so inundated with conflicted thought. Gary Kanza and Roger Toll have to come forward and say what they do. And tell people. Tell everyone. I want to help make him tell everyone. And it's Saturday. So the margin for errancy is profound, because what they're doing quantumly is tapping into it's like AV cables being stuck into the back of a person's head, but they are unsure of whether they are accessing memory or imagination, and they'll submit results gathered from either one nonetheless. Not knowing, going beyond, going against religion is part of why they can't do this job properly. How would you imagine a scientist unable to differentiate between dream and reality, and then going to a pufta gathering of Masons chanting and they call it being the thought police. They call it all thought. What they're studying, they'll call all of it, no matter how fake or, the content that they study is, they consider it all thought. how fascinating that a Freemason religion member would think in those terms. I mean, you've obviously got that what they're doing is more technologically impressive than whatever they do when they chat and go, yeah, brother, yeah. Lawn bowls and fucking grand poo bars and fucking this and that. It's just all, to them it's all thought. So they'll have someone classed as a nutter for the entirety of their life on the basis of the fact that they think that everything that goes on in the brain is all thought that corresponds to empirical reality. Well, not even your religion corresponds to empirical reality. And that's why you hide like a bunch of pansies that won't even step up and debate your religion and the veracity thereof in the public domain. So how do you get that? How do you get that right? Ask them that one. They wouldn't study if they had any sort of critical mind. They couldn't study the first paragraph of the constituency of their own faith without identifying human error, human error, human error, human error, human error, human error, human error. So why is it the inspirational basis for studying people now? It's the inspirational basis for them being homewreckers. And iconoclast of injustice and inbred belief systems. I'll grant you that. But that has nothing to do with the person's truth. Okay, so in talking more about the type B, the ones hit with tech, they'll get lumped together. It's a hospital whose belief system is based on the female coming from a lonely man's rib. And, you know, he's oh so lonely that she's got to work very hard to make things right for him. Yeah, it will be a great place to have people with completely different physiological circumstances all lumped together under the same fucking banner, diagnostic banner. But differentiation and variation in type B, the ones hit with tech, there's an irradiating, since data's been removed from the person's head, there's an irradiating effect. And I've wondered if the tech and the range being, it wouldn't make sense. Or it might. To be directly under a lake. This is something I can't be sure of. There's a lot of water in the brain. humans are mostly water and human brains are mostly water, and the retaining of information in the brain will involve water in the brain. A lot of this is eroded as a person's studied further and studied further and studied further and studied further. By Pedmaster Roger Markby, Grand Ped Bar. I'd say Grand Poo Bar, but he's already too enthusiastic about orchestrating anal rapes. So he can have the Freemasonry rank of Grand Ped Bar rather than Grand Poo Bar in this case. Plus whatever ancient fleet landed him in Tasmania. Fleet is also the name of an enema product that's for sale in pharmacies everywhere. That's once again goes in the anus. The soul and your soul ointment. Touched by the hem of his roids. So yeah, this second type that I want to talk about, this resistance and compliance gradient in relation to the test, and it depends on the person's own thinking, whether they are religiously charged in their thinking or independently driven in their thinking, independently minded. The ones that are not independently minded can equate the tests to the test scenarios to that of hearing the voice of, or the voices of deities or supernatural beings that they've spent their life hoping really exist and will really demonstrate proofs that they really exist. And so the tests, the hearing voices tests, will by that person be thought, oh wow, and they'll excite, they'll sexually excite, they'll emotionally excite, they'll they'll think, oh, this is fantastic, rather than thinking that their head's been invaded. So they could use the voices, in particular, samples of cloned samples of the voices of known handlers, or people like people that they've once had crushes on, romantic crushes on, or people that they think are beautiful, and they can clone their voices and then repeat the test scenarios and then aim for responses that way. If a person has come to terms with being completely alone, then it's just the fact that they'll physically decay over time. But they won't be compliant respondents to the voices, because they'll know them to they'll know them definitely as distinct from their own thoughts. And that's what Dr. Roger Markby has invested his free time in. Projects to boost the distribution of high rebate $1,000 a supply meds. $1,000 a month supply is $12,000 per year. And one bottle of dexamphetamine speed is $15 per supply. Thus, there's also the interest in going, well, this product doesn't work. As demonstrated by initiating the test scenarios. And that's because $15 a month compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can.
Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can. Compared to $1,000 a month is a very big difference in the mind of Roger Tall and Gary Can.
Hello. Capital chemist is shit. Capital chemist is shit. I've been going to capital chemist for many years now. And all I can say is shit, 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 full of shit. Two owners of the chemist are full of shit, 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 shit. Shit. Capital chemist, shit, 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 shit. Capital chemist is shit. Capital chemist is shit. Capital chemist is full of shit.
Person.